really are getting a little extra today with the pink rug that you can't even see and the pink dress, but that's all a part of it. Hi guys, my name is Leena and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to what's going to be a little more of a vulnerable kind of video on a somewhat deeper topic. As you can tell by the title if you've clicked on this, today we're going to be talking about love and relationships and everything that I know about romantic connections with other humans so far in my 20 years of living. I've been listening to so many podcasts lately just while driving or working, and it's really inspired me to just kind of like sit down for a longer chatty video where I can dive into the depths a bit more with the topic and just chat. As some of you may know, I'm back in my home state for the holidays, and I just feel like the past few years living out of home have been so transformational for me, and just the way that I see the world and kind of go about my days is so different, I guess, to how it used to be. And I've been doing a lot of reflecting on where I am now, and I want to be, especially as I'm about to turn 21 too. Basically, I kind of wanted to make this video mostly for myself as kind of like a time capsule almost on my perspectives on love in a place where I'm not like actively like probably seeing anyone, and my ideas and I guess thoughts about it would be a bit more generalized, because I know that when you're seeing someone, usually all of your advice and all of that like perspectives kind of come from that one person. So I don't know, I think I'm just at a stage where my views on love are pretty healthy, or at least like a lot better than they used to be, and I kind of wanted to just reflect on that. I'm such a little lover girl, hopeless romantic at heart, under all the layers of conditioning and whatever else we've been exposed to, so I kind of wanted to let that shine here. This video is mostly for myself, but I thought it might have the potential to kind of open you guys up to some new ideas or perspectives, or I don't know, maybe you'll find some value in it as well. What I talk about is of course coming from my own experiences, but also I guess what I've learned in like psychology and just books I've read and movies and just whatever has shaped me over the years. I've had this video idea for a few months now, so I have been jotting down notes kind of as I go along, but the concept of love is such a big and complex one to tackle, so I'm probably going to miss out on a lot of things, and I could talk about this for hours and hours, but I'm not going to do that, and I'm just going to hope the ideas and notes that I've made flow cohesively and just how it's meant to come out, I guess. Also, side note, the lighting is probably going to change a lot, so I hope it doesn't look too weird, and there are definitely going to be bird and insect noises because I don't have anywhere to film inside at the moment, so hopefully it's okay. Grab yourself a nice drink. I have finished mine on the way here, but enjoy. Firstly, if we're going to talk about love, it's probably important that we try to define it. The dictionary, or I guess most dictionaries I've come across, say love is an intense feeling of deep affection. I do have notes here, by the way, so if I'm looking down, that's why. I think in a romantic context, to me, it also means some sort of attachment or interdependence or joining of sorts as well. I feel like love in general extends to so many things, so many different people, and you can talk about it in all sorts of contexts, but I think the act of being in love just exasperates this so much more. It's kind of difficult to define properly, but to me it's just feeling really genuinely warm for someone and wanting the absolute best for them and wanting to see them happy and succeed, even if that's sometimes above your own happiness. Just feeling safe and seen and understood despite each other's flaws, and just like a mutual admiration of each other and just enjoying each other's company, I guess. Here's something that I wrote which I feel like kind of reflects this feeling that I'm talking about. No matter how much we might try to avoid love and just intimate relationships and closeness at times, trust me, I am guilty of this. At the end of the day, we're all mammals, and love and connection is a need that we do all share. Biologically, for safety and security and reproduction, yes, but also psychologically, where we can feel a sense of belonging and be able to share our lives with the people that are important to us. I think being single and focusing on ourselves can be so beneficial at times, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in a bit, but we are all kind of wired and inclined to seek connections with other people, which makes sense considering there's so many of us on this planet. So don't feel weird or bad about yourself if you're ever feeling lonely or are craving that deeper sense of intimacy with someone, because it's literally wired into our biology and how we are as people. Of course, we've evolved far past the days where we're seeking partners and our tribe just purely for survival and safety needs. We want, or I guess most of us would want, actual partnerships with a base of mutual love and respect and so many other factors that are dependent on what's important for us and our needs at a certain stage, and I guess our own core values as well. I'm at a weird stage of my life where I can kind of envision the partnership I want and all the wonderful characteristics this person will have and how they'll make me feel and all of that, but there's just so many things I want to do first before I even think about the idea of, like settling down and starting a family and all that. And I feel like that is a big theme for all of us in our 20s. So as a 20-year-old, I feel like this is kind of the prime time to be learning things about ourselves and exploring the world and different hobbies and interests. As cliche as it does sound, I guess just really finding ourselves. That's kind of confusing enough as it is, but when you add other people into the mix, especially people that you're super into, there can kind of be like a clash of identities, and before you know it, you've adopted the traits and hobbies of this person that you admire so much and spend so much time with. And then you kind of have that big internal dilemma where you don't know which parts of yourself are actually you and which parts have just been absorbed from the people around you. And then you're 30 and you're married with kids, and then you have a crisis because you suddenly realize that you actually hate your career and where you live and you don't know what to do with yourself. But it doesn't have to be like that, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to become more interdependent with someone when you're choosing partners who match your values and who genuinely inspire and excite you. Personally, I know I'm going to be a little bit broke at times, and I'm not going to be very geographically settled or have my life anywhere near together for the next few years to come. I just really want to travel and explore a bit more and experience a bit more before I think about actually settling down with somebody. So while that does mean I might be a little bit more cautious and perhaps a bit more insecure about how I might be able to show up in a relationship, it definitely doesn't mean that I'm completely closed off to the idea of traveling and experiencing these things with someone that I really admire and who has a similar life trajectory to mine and, similar wants and dreams. And just if that's also something that they want to do and are actively already doing. I just, wouldn't really want to try and change anyone for the sake of my own wants, and I wouldn't want them to try to change me for what they want as well, because it just wouldn't be fair on either of us. So to be able to discern whether you want to get into a relationship with someone because they genuinely align with you, or because you're simply super attracted to them superficially, or because you're lonely or craving validation or excitement or whatever million other reasons it could be, is honestly kind of hard, but it does get a lot easier the more you start to get to know yourself. I think we can all relate to the feeling of looking back at some of the people that we were super into or dated in the past and kind of getting the ick because they're just so not people that you would go for now and so not your type of what characteristics you might look for. And yes, often we do need to just experience what feels wrong to figure out what might actually feel right, but we can save ourselves so much drama and hurt and just like unfulfilling interactions with people when we learn to figure out what we want beforehand and then we go after that instead of just kind of accepting in whoever gives us attention or excitement or validation. Because once we know that we can validate ourselves and create that safe space for ourselves, we don't really tend to seek that false sense of safety in subpar connections where we don't affirm our healthy boundaries and we tolerate things like lying and low effort and things that we just don't really need to. This might look like looking inward to figure out what your own values are and learning to prioritize them in your connections with people. Being transparent about your own strengths and weaknesses so you can show up authentically as yourself and kind of weed out the people who don't appreciate you as you are. But even if you do feel externally fairly confident about yourself and the value that you can bring to other people, and do have high standards for the people that come in and out of your life, sometimes your standards become unrealistically high, and either knowingly or subconsciously, instead of becoming a filter, they become a big huge wall that you just put in front of yourself and that nobody is going to be able to get over. And they're not going to want to try because after a certain point they're going to get tired and their hands are going to slip and they're going to fall off the wall. And that's one side of the insecurity spectrum, the avoidance side. If you guys haven't yet heard of the concept of attachment styles, I highly recommend you read into it a little bit because it'll just open up a whole new level of understanding and just a new perspective about yourself and then probably also a lot of the people that you have been close with. I could go into depth about these and talk about them for ages because there's just so much to unpack, but basically there's like 3 or 4 different attachment styles that everyone will kind of fall into. Avoidant is kind of what I've just described, where you'll push people away because you don't feel that they'll live up to your standards, or you'll start to feel uncomfortable and just start to remove yourself from a connection based on a fear of getting closer, or that they'll hinder your independence, or more importantly that you'll eventually get hurt. Anxious attachment is kind of the opposite, where you'll cling onto people even if you know that they might not necessarily be the right people for you. They might need to feel close and reassured at all times because they kind of have that fear of abandonment and just feel all their emotions super strongly. Then there's disorganized attachment, or like a mix of anxious avoidant, which is just a mix of both and extra confusing and harder to understand. And lastly, there's the healthy secure attachment, which is what we all should be kind of aiming for, and that is where you kind of can be comfortable becoming close to and trusting people, but also just be comfortable being independent and develop that healthy sense of interdependence within your relationships. I'm going to be honest here, in the past I've definitely shown more avoidant traits when initially becoming close to people, and then become a lot more anxious avoidant when the relationship has progressed a bit more. But it felt so uncomfortable feeling so codependent on someone that I couldn't really fully trust or be dependent on, that I feel like it kind of pushed me over to the avoidant side again. I definitely feel like I've grown a lot since then, and over time I'm becoming a lot more secure and open with the way that I do approach relationships. Different people really do activate your insecure attachment styles in different ways, and you can think that you've done all the work and that you've healed from your past and everything, but then you'll come across someone new who just activates and brings out all your triggers in ways that haven't been done before. Relationships are often just mirrors into what you might need to dig a little deeper into within yourself, to bring up all your triggers and insecurities and make you feel uncomfortable, and it's so easy to run away from this, but with someone you can genuinely trust and feel safe with, it can be such a beautiful space to heal these patterns over time and eventually become more secure. Which is why you'll often hear that relationships are a shortcut to healing, because you want to be better for yourself but also for each other. Honestly, a lot of what I know about love and being more secure and healthy with my interactions with people is because I have such beautiful, loving, platonic friendships. I have literally no idea how I ended up with so many incredible people in my life, but I am so grateful for my friends and how deeply we all care for each other. We've taught each other so much about trust and setting healthy boundaries and gentle communication and just unconditionally being there for each other despite, any time that passes or distance between us as we all go off and do our own things. I genuinely feel so deeply loved and held in my closest friendships, and it's really helped to raise the standards of things that I would accept in a romantic relationship. So many of my, emotional needs are met through my friendships, which means I don't really seek them out in connections that I'm not super excited about. I think most of us have heard of the concept of love languages by now, but basically it's kind of like the preferred method for you for receiving or giving affection. We've got physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and gift giving, and I think I've just accidentally listed them in the order of my most important ones. My friends and I have all kind of talked about this kind of stuff, and it's pretty cute. My housemates that I lived with knew that I loved my words of affirmation, so they just leave little letters on things sometimes, which is really sweet. I'm mentioning this because I feel like knowing your love languages and your partner's love languages really helps to foster that sense of intimacy that's deeper than just physical intimacy, and it just helps your friends or your partners feel more loved, and why wouldn't you want that? Now for the less happy stuff, let's talk about breakups. Heartbreak always friggin' sucks, no matter who it's with or how long you've been together. Sometimes it definitely does suck more than other times, but it will always kind of suck. And I think we all know that breakups suck, but until we go through our first proper one, I think you don't really realize how much it does suck until you experience it. But at the same time, after you go through that initial kind of phase of mourning and sadness and just the sucky bits, I feel like they can really be such a great catalyst for healing and just looking after yourself in a more gentle way. You take care of yourself more, you spend more time with friends, and I don't know, anytime I've ever been sad after something has ended, I always glow up a little bit. Physically sometimes yes, but definitely more so mentally as well. And as cliche as it does sound, time really is the best healer. You can think through and try to process and kind of fast track getting over it all you want, but it'll take time to feel like yourself again, and that is okay. One day you'll wake up and they won't be the first thing on your mind, and another day later someone will kind of mention what they've been up to, and you'll realize for the first time that you're actually truly over them and that you don't really care that much. And it honestly is such a great feeling knowing that you've grown past all of that. If you're going through a period of heartbreak now, I'm sorry, I'm sending you a big hug and I promise that it will get better eventually. So I feel like I've talked pretty generally up to this point and tried to kind of piece things together into little categories to make them flow. So hopefully it kind of has, but there were some notes that didn't really fit into the flow but I thought would still be potentially helpful to share, so here they are now. But this one kind of speaks on unrequited love, and that is that no love is ever wasted. Kindness and love tends to stick with someone if it's coming from a place that is genuine, so whether this be the love that you give to someone or the love that they give to you. I've actually got a little document that just has a bunch of really sweet words that was said to me by, you know, past lovers or friends, and things have just stuck with me, and it's so special to look back on, even if I'm not touched or I really care for these people like that anymore. In a similar way, just because you're kind to someone and show them love, that doesn't mean that they owe you any in return. And it's the same with the other way around. You don't owe anyone anything just because they show you that they care about you. Respect, definitely, if it's granted, but other than that, I feel like you should be kind to people and show that you care because you want to be kind and show you care, not because you're expecting something in return. You won't have to expect or ask excessively from the right people, it'll just come. Attraction is so subjective and depends on so many more things other than just the way that you look. Can't really force it, it's either there or it isn't, and that's okay. Someone can also be really amazing and perfect for you and tick all the boxes, and you might just not be attracted to them in that way, and that's also okay. You can't try to change people or expect more from them than they can or want to give. Instead of, you know, building someone up in your head and seeing them for what they're not, let that person show you who they are and then decide if that's what you want to tolerate or not. It's just not fair to expect someone to change if they don't want to, just as it's not fair to change yourself for others as well. You can't assume what someone else might think or what goes on in their head, and you can't control anything other than yourself or your reactions to situations. If you find yourself assuming often, it probably just means that you're not communicating enough. Saying no to people who aren't meant for you opens doors to people that are, even if you can't necessarily see the doors yet or see when they're coming or where they are. Just know that it does and just trust that it does. You will need time to heal after a breakup, so you don't just go on repeating the same patterns and attracting the same kind of people. Sometimes it takes a long time to fully process everything, and sometimes not quite as much depending on how deep or how long you were with this person for. But you do kind of have to be in the right mindset to enter a new relationship. You can meet the right person, and if you're not ready, it just won't go anywhere, and it sucks, but that's okay. You just have to be upfront so you're not hurting people unnecessarily. Nobody's perfect, and at some point you definitely will end up hurting someone or getting hurt, and unfortunately it is just kind of inevitable. It's a scary thought and it's uncomfortable, but we have to kind of learn to accept it, because the more we try to avoid it, the more painful it's going to be when it does kind of come around. Trust is the most important thing in any relationship, and it always takes so much longer to build up than it does to break down. So if you keep your trust and communication levels high, then everything else in the relationship will flow so much easier. And the last little pointer, people are only going to meet you at the capacity that they've met themselves. Everyone experiences the world so differently, and everyone's got different outlooks and triggers and insecurities and just different perspectives, and you can learn so much about the other person but also about yourself through these interactions with other people. And no two connections or relationships are ever going to be the same, because people are so different, and like the clashes of differences always create something new every single time. Thank you guys so much if you've made it to the end of this video. I know that it was kind of long and probably a bit rambly, but I do hope you found it valuable if you did stay. I don't really plan on doing like a crazy amount of longer videos where I just sit down and talk, but I do want to sprinkle them in every now and then, because sometimes I just have a lot that I want to talk about. So if you did like it, please do let me know. Like I said, this video is mostly a time capsule for myself to look back on, but if you did find anything valuable or want to share your own experiences, please do feel free to in the comments below. And of course I have to say, like and subscribe if you enjoyed. We're almost at 500 subscribers, which is a crazy thought, but it's also really exciting. And now that I'm home again for the summer, I will definitely see you guys next Thursday again, and we'll be uploading more consistently. It's going to be a big priority of mine, so thank you again for watching. I will see you guys in a video soon. Bye for now.